There's a major move coming, Browns fans. Gear up. Adam Schefter has come out and said that the Cleveland Browns have a huge update ahead of the NFL trade deadline. We're going to show you exactly what that is, and get ready because the deadline is literally tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. What are the Cleveland Browns going to do? I say we waste no time. Let's tell you the Adam Schefter update right now. He says that the Browns are likely to be more buyers than sellers this week. The Browns do not sound inclined to trade tight end David Njoku, but they have been calling around the league, still looking to add a quality young player to their roster. Wow, Browns fans. We got to get into this. This is why you subscribe to the channel, though, because a Browns move is coming. Adam Schefter says we're buyers. When that happens, I will have you covered instantly. Turn your notifications on. Hit that subscribe button so you can be the first person to know about this Browns breaking news. But this is huge. A lot of reports were saying that Cleveland would be sellers by the deadline. The biggest source out there from ESPN is saying, guess what? They're going to be more buyers. Here's exactly what Adam Schefter said about the Cleveland Browns. Though Cleveland already has completed 3 trades in the past month, acquiring offensive tackle Cam Robinson, sending quarterback Joe Flacco to Cincinnati, and swapping cornerbacks with Jacksonville, most sources believe that the Browns will be aggressive in acquiring players before the deadline. The Browns do not sound inclined to trade tight end David Njoku, but they have been calling around the league looking to add quality young players to their roster. Well, if you watch my show, I said the Browns are going to be doing both buying and selling. That's evidenced by all their recent moves that Adam Schefter just laid out for us. But I think one of the interesting things that he noted is David Njoku staying in Cleveland. Well, Njoku's on a contract year, so this is the only part that's a little fishy to me, right? Does that mean they're going to be able to re-sign Njoku if we keep him on this roster? Would he be expensive in the offseason? Or is he going to walk away and we get nothing for David Njoku? I imagine some teams would be interested in trading for him, but Schefter's saying that the Browns are not inclined to do that. What the Browns are inclined to do is go out and get a position of need. We need a lot. It's all offensive related except for a corner. A wide receiver and an offensive lineman are the top of that list. And with this new report from Adam Schefter, could the Cleveland Browns be in the market to get a wide receiver, perhaps a big-name wide receiver? Adam Schefter gave us some insight on Jaylen Waddle, saying that for starters, the Dolphins are expected to ask for, in the words of a source, a 1+ in any potential trade for Waddle, meaning they believe they would have to receive a first-round draft pick plus other compensation. Now, Waddle, I know a lot of people have polarizing opinions on, but he is a young, talented, dynamic wide receiver out of Alabama. He signed a 3-year contract worth nearly $85 million, but he's under contract through to 2028. And this is why Waddle's asking price is probably pretty high. You're seeing what the Dolphins are saying. They're setting it pretty steep. They want more than just a first-round pick. That's expensive, but he's one of the only wide receivers that's being talked about in trade talks that is not a free agent next year. And Waddle's had a wonderful career in Miami, specifically 22 and 23 when he was over 1,000 yards. He's been racking up touchdowns. He's still made an impact this season, and Miami has been terrible. I mean, you talk about a team that is definitely a seller at the deadline. Well, the Miami Dolphins are the first ones that come to mind. And why Jaylen Waddle is so expensive is because he's a young, talented receiver that is signed to a deal for many years to come. And so a lot of people in my comments are saying, I don't want to give up a first-round pick for Jaylen Waddle. Well, compared to other wide receivers on the market, I could understand where they're coming from. He's actually not that bad of a contract compared to other receivers, big-name receivers in the NFL. Jamar Chase leading the way. This is total value of contracts. Waddle's not in the top 10. In fact, his teammate Tyreek Hill is making more than him, and obviously Hill suffered a season-ending injury. Jaylen Waddle ranks 12th highest in terms of highest-paid wide receivers. And like I said, Miami, they're selling. They're rebuilding. They're not going anywhere. You could say that's the case about the Cleveland Browns, but people don't understand the Cleveland Browns are not having a traditional rebuild. I'm going to get into that in a future video. What Ian Rappaport told us is that expect Miami to make at least one trade prior to Tuesday's deadline, but it could be more. They're fielding calls on a lot of their players. They're almost in a situation like the Titans where they're ready to ship everybody out. That includes calls that they're taking on Jaylen Waddle. Should Andrew Berry go and pick up the phone and try to get one of our biggest positions at need in a true number one? The issue, I don't want to give up that much if we don't contend. So you could get me to sell you a first-round pick. Sure, based on what I'm hearing about Waddle, based on the situation, based on how he's already signed, that could make sense to me. But if we go out and get him, and then we lose a bunch of games the rest of the year, and we're not contending next year, well, that's a waste all of a sudden. You need to show me that the Cleveland Browns can win. And with the defense they have, I think they can, specifically next year, if we go out and fix our offensive line. So how about this as a mock trade for Jaylen Waddle then? Since it's going to take a first-round pick plus. We get Waddle. The Dolphins can have a first-round pick. We have two. We'll give them the Jacksonville one. And we'll throw in a fifth-round pick. If Schefter's report is correct that the Miami Dolphins would only deal Waddle for a first-round pick and more, well then what say you about this deal, Browns fans? Would you accept the trade? Type Y for yes if you're doing this deal for Waddle. Type N for no if you're not a fan, you don't think he's worth as much. Maybe you're saying, okay, yeah, that's what the Dolphins would want, but I don't want to give that up for Jaylen Waddle. I understand. Comment it in the comment section below, but I do know we desperately need a star wide receiver. Another position of need for the Cleveland Browns is offensive line. There's no secret about that. And there is an offensive lineman on the market, ladies and gentlemen. This just emerged. I'm going to talk about it as a Browns trade target. But before we get into a potential offensive lineman that the Cleveland Browns could be a suitor for, I'm super excited to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, our lovely sponsor on today's video. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Football is in full swing now on Sundays. All is right with the world, and I'm big into daily fantasy with Prize Picks. I'm obsessed with it because it makes all the games more entertaining. And before the Browns play, I lock in on all my players in my lineup and their player projections. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least two player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. PrizePicks also offers injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks won't count it as a loss. I've got a lineup cooked up for some Monday Night Football. Cowboys, Cardinals, Dak Prescott, give me the more 1.5 passing touchdowns. Jacoby Brissett, one of our old friends, more than half an interception. He's due for one. And finally, The Ohio State University's Marvin Harrison. Give me the more on 59.5 receiving yards. That's my lineup. You can follow it if you want to try and make some money. But in order to do that, you have to download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. Folks, there are trade rumors on Jackson Powers Johnson, a young offensive lineman of the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Raiders, they're also in a position of selling. They're also in a position of, well, they're absolutely terrible. They just lost narrowly to the Jaguars in overtime. Their season is over. Geno Smith is one of the league leaders in interceptions. A report says that Powers Johnson is frustrated in Las Vegas, not only because they're playing losing football, but he's frustrated with the coaches. He's having an issue with the front office, and he wants to play center. A source told me that Las Vegas won't let him do this. They're sticking him at guard, and he's a very talented center. He was in college as well. Hey, we'll let you play anywhere you want. We need offensive linemen, and I know what you're thinking. Tackle is probably our biggest need. If he won't play tackle, why do we need him? Well, regardless, we're going to need offensive linemen for the future. I'll get into that. And he's a young 22-year-old Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, the second-round pick in the 2025 NFL draft. And he's surprisingly, I'm hearing, would be relatively cheap to get due to the Raiders needing to enter rebuild mode. So my take on this matter is even if he's not a tackle, we have multiple offensive guards on contract years. Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, Ethan Posick, our center. So we will need linemen no matter what next year if we can't retain all of them, and they're pretty old. They're all over 30. 22-year-old Jackson Powers-Johnson? Sounds pretty sweet to me. So I say, let's go out and make the call. I heard that a 4th-round pick should do it. Our Raiders host, who has over 200,000 subscribers, told me that would get it done. All right, take it. We'll give the Raiders a 4th. We'll bring in Jackson Powers-Johnson. We need everything we can to bolster up our offensive line this year and next year. I really think the Browns contend if their offense, if issues were fixed, because that defense is one of the top ranked in the league. What do you think, Browns fans? Would you accept that trade? Would you make that deal for Jackson Powers-Johnson, 4th-round pick, and we bring in a young OL? Type A for accept, type D for decline. If you're not into it, put it in the comment section, though, so I can go ahead and see where you're at. Folks, thank you so much for watching this edition of the Browns Report. Adam Schefter coming in with a bombshell rumor that the Browns could be doing some buying. Make sure you go follow me on X at Joey070 so you can stay covered, and subscribe to the channel. Tomorrow's the day, ladies and gentlemen. You know I'm going to have you covered. I'm putting out a video very early tomorrow morning as well. So have your notifications on so you can be the first to like and comment on that video. And get ready. Trade rumors are becoming trade realities tomorrow before the deadline.